At my father's burial, my girlfriend murmured to her companion, "Can you imagine he's weeping like a kid? It's totally grossing me out." They stifled giggles. I caught every syllable. The following dawn, she discovered what genuine heartbreak felt like. My dad was a decent man. A reserved man. He showed me how to swap engine oil, how to build a stud wall, and how to show kindness to others, even when they hadn't earned it. He labored as a union carpenter for 4 decades, and the rough spots on his palms carried their own tales. When he died 2 weeks back after a swift, savage battle with cancer, a piece of me vanished with him. I'm not embarrassed to admit that. I'm his boy. I cherished him. The service was last Wednesday. It was a dull, chilly day that echoed the hollowness in my heart. I stood in the front pew of the modest chapel. My sister on one side, my mother on the other. Somewhere behind me was my girlfriend of 3 years, Jenna. She was there for comfort, or so I believed. I kept my composure through the ceremony, through the march to the graveyard, through the clumsy handshakes and mournful grins from folks I hadn't seen in ages. But as my father's longest friend, a guy named George, rose to deliver the tribute, the barrier inside me finally shattered. He began recounting a tale about my dad teaching him to fish when they were mere boys, and the recollection surged in. Me as a youngster on a boat with my dad, the scent of lake water and sunblock, his steady hands directing mine as I hooked the bait. The tears flowed. Not noisy, heaving sobs. Just quiet, burning tears that slid down my cheeks. It was a raw, powerless sorrow. In that instant, I was simply a son who longed for his father. And that's when I caught it. It was a murmur, right at my back. So near I could sense the heat of the breath. It was Jenna, speaking to her pal and bridesmaid, Maya, who had tagged along. "Can you imagine he's weeping like a kid?" Jenna whispered, her tone dripping with a sort of stunned revulsion. "It's totally grossing me out." Then a noise that will be etched into my mind forever. A faint, muffled chuckle from Maya. The world went mute. The sorrow, the despair, the whole burial just evaporated. It was swapped for a sensation I had never known before. A blazing, crystal-clear fury that was so fierce it felt like frost. The tears on my face seemed like they were solidifying. I didn't glance back. I didn't shift an inch. I just remained there, gazing at my father's coffin, and heard George wrap up his tale. I shook hands. I took sympathies. I even embraced my mother. But I wasn't truly present. My thoughts were already elsewhere, operating with a chile, automated accuracy. She believed my mourning, my affection for my father was gross. She found my vulnerability repellent. I had been intending to offer this woman my surname, my tomorrow, my existence. And in the most exposed moment I had ever faced, she had revealed precisely who she was. The remainder of the day is hazy. I recall the ride to my mom's place for the gathering. I recall Jenna attempting to grasp my hand in the car. And the automatic way I withdrew it, citing the need to change gears. I recall her and Maya in a nook of the living room, swiping through their phones and appearing uninterested while my relatives shared stories of my dad. She figured she was being discreet. She had no clue I was observing her every action, not as her bereaved partner, but as a tactician evaluating a foe. She had just initiated conflict at a burial, and she didn't even realize it. I headed home that night to the condo I owned, the one she had settled into 2 years prior. She came alone, chatting about some office gossip, utterly unaware. She dozed off around 11. I didn't rest at all. I just sat in the living room in the shadows, and I compiled a checklist. The next morning, I was going to show her the essence of true deprivation. Update 1: The dawn after my father's burial was the first dawn of the remainder of my existence. I was up before sunrise, acting with a drive I hadn't experienced in years. The mourning for my dad was still a weighty shroud, but the icy blaze of a fresh determination smoldered beneath it. Jenna was still dozing in my bed. My bed. In my condo. I gazed at her for a lengthy moment, this unfamiliar person who had chuckled at my suffering. There was no affection remaining. There was zilch. Just an issue to resolve. My opening action was quiet and virtual. I fired up my laptop at the kitchen counter. Jenna had an additional credit card on my primary account. And backup card that she used for lunches with Maya, for fresh outfits, for beauty treatments. I signed into my bank's portal. 2 taps. Card terminated. Access revoked. Finished. Next, the shared savings fund. We had one, meant for a deposit on a future home. I had deposited 90% of the money. I ran a fast tally and moved my full deposit, plus half the earned interest, into my individual checking. I left her 10%, precisely what she had added. It came to a few grand. A farewell token. Then, the vehicle. Jenna drove a sleek SUV. It was a year old. It was also, lawfully, my sleek SUV. The registration was in my name. The financing was in my name. The coverage was in my name. I had purchased it for her so she would have a dependable ride. She sent me a minor payment each month, much less than a true rental would demand. I located the duplicate key in the odds and ends drawer. I stepped outside into the crisp morning breeze and drove the vehicle to a lot a few miles off that focused on purchasing pre-owned cars. I knew the owner. I told him I needed to unload it quickly. He said he could have the documents and a payment prepared by day's end. I gave him the key and grabbed a rideshare back to my condo. By the time I returned, it was 7:30. Jenna was still dozing. That's when I began the tangible phase of the removal. I went to the hall storage and grabbed a pack of sturdy black garbage sacks. If she viewed my feelings as trash, then her items could be handled the same. I was systematic. I started with her wardrobe. The high-end gowns, the scores of shoe pairs, the purses that exceeded the price of my initial vehicle. I didn't crease them. I just yanked them from the racks and crammed them into the sacks. Her half of the bathroom was next. The countless jars of serums and moisturizers, the pricey cosmetics, the styling goods. All of it dumped into a sack. I scoured the whole condo, a mute storm of clearance. Every novel, every knick-knack, every snapshot of us in a metallic frame. I boxed it all. By 9 o'clock, there was a heap of black garbage sacks stacked in the center of the living room. It was a tribute to a deceased romance. That's when she finally stirred. She strolled out of the bedroom, yawning, extending, and halted abruptly when she viewed the sight. "What? What's happening?" she queried, her voice heavy with slumber and bewilderment. "Are we decluttering?" I didn't glance back. I just kept securing the top of the final sack. "No," I said, my tone steady and level. "You are departing." She chuckled, a tense, unsure noise. "What are you saying, Jake? Is this a prank?" "It's not amusing." I finally faced her. I ensured my face was entirely neutral. "I'm not pranking. I caught you at my father's burial yesterday. I caught what you told Maya. I caught you giggle." The hue drained from her cheeks. For the first time, I spotted a spark of real alarm in her eyes. I don't know what you're referring to." "Don't you?" I advanced a step. "Let me refresh you. Can you imagine he's weeping like a kid? It's totally grossing me out. Does that sound familiar?" She just gawked at me, her mouth parting and shutting like a fish. "You stood behind me while I was grieving my father, the man who opened his home to you, and you ridiculed me." I went on, my tone still soft, but firm as iron. "You found my sorrow, for the most vital man in my world, to be gross. So I'm granting you a kindness. I'm eliminating the cause of your unease from your world. Me. And since I am the origin of everything else in your world, this condo, that vehicle, that credit card, all of that is being eliminated too." She finally located her voice. "You can't do this. This is madness." It was a dumb remark. I was upset. "No, I was upset," I rectified her. You are heartless. And now you must face the fallout. Your additional card has been terminated. The vehicle you were operating is presently being unloaded. Your items are in these sacks. You have 1 hour to phone your pal Maya and have her come collect you and your stuff. Then you will hand me the key to this condo, and you will exit. The tears began then. Large, theatrical fake tears. Jake, please, I'm sorry. I didn't intend it. I adore you. I just regarded her, entirely unaffected. You know, Jenna, I said, my tone lowering to almost a murmur. Watching you weep right now, it's totally grossing me out. The expression on her face was worth 1,000 hollow regrets. The hour that ensued was a lesson in frantic pleading. She phoned Maya, yelling into the device. She attempted to negotiate with me, to argue with me, to fury at me. I just perched on a kitchen seat, sipping a mug of coffee and observed. When Maya showed up, her face a veil of wrath, they both launched into me. You are a beast for doing this to her, Maya shouted. Am I? I asked serenely. Or am I just a man who chose he doesn't want to spend his days with someone who finds his devotion to his deceased father revolting? They had no reply for that. It took them almost an hour to drag all 37 garbage sacks of her existence out of my condo and cram them into Maya's compact SUV. When they were finally finished, Jenna stood in the open entrance, her face a wreck of tears and cosmetics. She flung her condo key on the floor. You will regret this, she snarled. No, Jenna, I said, staring her straight in the eye. It wasn't the vacant quiet of deprivation. It was the pure, serene quiet of liberty. Update 2: the week following the removal, as I've come to call it, was an odd one. I was managing the details of my father's inheritance, which was a burdensome but essential duty. It occupied my thoughts. Every document I completed, every account I shut, felt like a way of paying tribute to him. And every evening, I would return to my calm, gentleless condo and sense a deep wave of ease. I had anticipated a retaliation, and it didn't delay long to emerge. The first strike was electronic. A flood of messages and calls from hidden numbers. Voicemails from Jenna, switching between frantic weeping and poisonous anger. Notes from Maya, labeling me an erratic lunatic who required major therapy. I erased them all without hearing them completely. Then, the tale started to shape. They initiated a joint defamation effort among our shared acquaintances. The version they were crafting was pure invention. Supposedly, I had endured a total psychological collapse due to my father's passing. In my sorrow-driven, unsteady condition, I had a manic outburst and brutally ejected the caring, devoted Jenna onto the pavement for no cause at all. They were concerned about me. They were fearful of what I might do next. It was a smart tactic. It depicted me as the antagonist and her as the suffering heroine who had tolerated my instability. A few of our shared friends, the ones who were more her allies than mine, swallowed it wholly. I received a few worried, yet blaming, text notes. Man, are you all right? Heard you lost it. Dumping Jenna out was not right. I knew I couldn't allow this tale to settle. I had to counter, but not on their field. I wasn't going to engage in an open brawl. My retribution needed to be like a marksman's bullet. One sharp, exact move that would conclude the conflict. I recalled something from the burial. As I was standing there, weeping, my cousin Sarah was positioned just a few feet off. She had approached and given me a hug right after George's tribute. She was nearer to Jenna and Maya than I was. There was a possibility she had caught it too. I rang her. I didn't dance around. Sarah, I need to ask you something crucial. At Dad's burial, when George was talking, I was quite shattered. I know you were close by. Did you chance to catch Jenna say anything? There was a hush on the line. Oh, Jake, she said, her voice laden with sympathy. I didn't want to be the one to say. I caught it all. I couldn't believe it. I mentioned it to Mom on the drive home. We were appalled. Jackpot. I had a corroborator. And not just any corroborator. A relative of mine. My next ring was to our one true shared friend. A guy named Mark, who was the hub of our circle. If you wanted a tale to circulate, you told Mark. Mark, I said, I know you're hearing a bunch of wild tales right now. I just want to give you the facts. Once, so you have them. At my dad's burial, while I was weeping during the tribute, Jenna leaned to Maya and said, "Can you imagine he's weeping like a kid? It's totally grossing me out." My cousin Sarah was right there and caught it too. That is why she is no longer in my world. That is the full tale. The hush on the line was thunderous. I could almost hear the cogs spinning in his mind. The fuzzy tale of my collapse versus a straight, appalling quote, backed by a corroborator. There was no competition. She said that? He eventually asked, his tone full of shock. At a burial? Yes, I said, that's who she is. It took under 48 hours for the facts to demolish their tangle of deceptions. The tale of what Jenna uttered and where she uttered it was so horrific, so inexcusable that it totally destroyed her martyr tale. The worried notes I was receiving shifted to messages of Jenna and Maya were revealed for the insensitive, vicious people they were. The urgency from Jenna's side intensified. A few days on, I got a panicked ring from the property supervisor of my condo building. Apparently, Jenna had appeared with a lock technician, asserting she was a lawful occupant who had been unlawfully barred. Fortunately, I had already emailed him the week prior, notifying him that she was no longer residing with me and was not on the rental agreement. He had refused the technician access and warned to summon the authorities if she didn't vacate the premises. Her bid to publicly shame me and compel her way back in had backfired spectacularly. The last feeble try came as a formal appearing document. It was from a budget document for hire legal firm. It was a claim for monetary compensation. It alleged she was due half the worth of the SUV, a payout for psychological harm, and 3 months of partner aid to help her regain stability. It was laughable, but a laughable that required a reply. I sent it to my family's attorney, the same one managing my father's inheritance. His reply was a masterpiece. It was a lone page. It declared, in clear terms, that Jenna had no lawful right to any of my properties. It noted that she was a visitor in my residence, not a lawful occupant. It then attached a proper bill for $1,500, the cost of her share of the rent and bills for the last month she stayed in my condo, which she had not covered. The document ended by stating that we would gladly forgive the bill in return for her ending all further interaction. But if she opted to chase her groundless legal demands, we would fiercely counterclaim for that sum, plus all related attorney costs. The quiet that followed was total. The conflict was done. I had triumphed. Final update. It's been 6 months. The foliage has shifted, dropped, and the initial flakes are on the earth. The keen pains of mourning for my father have eased, swapped by a gentle, lasting sense of his influence in my days. The turmoil with Jenna seems like it occurred to another person in a different era. Existence, as it happens, continues. And it improves. So much improved. I never caught word from Jenna or her attorney again after that closing document. The bill was, predictably, never settled. But the pestering ceased. That was compensation enough. I learned about her days in fragments, through the rumor mill of former shared friends. Her decline was not rapid and theatrical. It was a gradual, muted, and pitiful crumble. After exhausting her stay on Maya's sofa in under a month, she had no option but to relocate back with her folks. The self-reliant, elegant life she had constructed for herself was exposed to be a brittle shell, supported completely by my earnings and my steadiness. She had to secure employment, an entry-level office role that compensated a sliver of what she was accustomed to blowing on a lone shopping spree. The fresh SUV was gone, swapped by a worn, battered coupe her folks provided her. The lunches, the spas, the luxury garments, all vanished. Her circle of friends faded. Maya and her other enablers, the ones who fueled her viciousness, gradually vanished. They were drawn to the way of life she had with me. When the way of life evaporated, so did they. The irony is nearly lyrical. The woman who found authentic feeling gross is now enduring a life lacking any authentic delight or depth. She is stuck in a condition of endless discontent, a captive of the shallow principles she cherished so much. Her days are, by her own standard, one massive gross-out. As for me, I've been reconstructing. I unloaded my city condo and acquired a modest home with some acreage, the sort of spot my dad always envisioned owning. I've been passing my weekends laboring on it, getting my hands soiled, creating something tangible and enduring. My cousin Sarah and I have grown nearer than ever. My kin, my true kin, has been my anchor. I've also launched a fund in my father's honor. It offers grants for youth who wish to enter the skilled trades, like woodworking. It's a method of celebrating his heritage, of converting my deprivation into something beneficial for others. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever undertaken. I spotted Jenna once, a few weeks back. I was at a hardware store, hefting sacks of dirt into the bed of my pickup. She was entering the lot in her aged coupe. Our gazes locked for a short instant through her glass. I saw a flash of something in her expression, astonishment, embarrassment, perhaps even remorse. She swiftly averted her eyes and drove to the distant side of the lot. I didn't sense a thing. No fury, no despair, not even compassion. It was like viewing an unknown. The grip she had on me was utterly erased. She was just an individual I once knew, a side note in a section of my life that was now sealed. The supreme retribution wasn't in the terminated card or the reclaimed vehicle. It wasn't in the public disgrace or the legal warnings. The supreme retribution was my own serenity. It was in realizing that the life she attempted to destroy was just a structure. And I was the base. I could reconstruct, tougher and superior than before. She ridiculed me for weeping at my father's burial. She viewed my devotion as a flaw. But she was mistaken. That devotion, that sorrow, was a mark of my humanity. It was the root of my power. And in the end, it was the thing that rescued me from a life with someone who would never grasp what it means to truly forfeit something because she never truly treasured anything. She forfeited me, but I reclaimed myself. And that's a swap I'd make every single time.